My name is Moe Egan, and I'm director for the Other Side Village. My job is to recruit folks that are currently on the streets, that are chronically homeless, that are in active, ongoing addiction, are displaced veterans, and of course, are folks that are struggling with mental health. I grew up in a family that had a lot of culture and accountability, but it was a negative kind of accountability, right? I recall my uncle in 4th grade teaching me how to roll weed, smoke weed, and sell weed. That was his contribution to me. And that's exactly what I did. I went to school with about 100 joints, and I was selling them in 4th grade on campus, which means kids were buying it. I got caught in the bathroom by campus security. Took me to the principal's office and sent me home. When I got home and walked to that door, I thought something was going to happen. Absolutely nothing. No reprimand, no nothing. And from that point on, I learned that, hey, this family's not really concerned about what's going on with me, right? And what I'm doing. I'm going to be able to do whatever I want to do. And I took that to some places where I wouldn't wish on anybody. And it's not a surprise that I became a lifelong alcoholic, drug addict, criminal. In fact, when I graduated my senior year, I played in 3 all-star games, football, basketball, and baseball, and I got MVP of all three all-star games. But by that time, the drugs and alcohol, it was embedded with me. It was in me, right? And so I was getting letters from just about every school around the country. Had a stack of letters, right? Recruiting letters, and I just never opened them. One day, 2 of my friends who, they come from families that went to school, and that's their conversation. They said, "What are these letters?" I said, "These are from schools around the country that want me to play sports for them." They're like, "What? You idiot, what are you doing?" Right? By that time, right, it was too late. I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I gotta take an SAT, right? The next morning, after a school dance, when I'm drunk, high, out of my mind, right?" And I said, okay, I'll take a look at it. Right before I graduated, I was going to go to San Diego State. Out drinking, drugging, got in a motorcycle accident. After that, I ended up playing 2 years semi-pro football for the Fresno Bandits. Smoking crack, smoking weed, and drinking the whole time. So now I'm in trouble with the law. I'm making a big stink. I'm the town drug addict. I have a friend of mine that I went to high school with. We stayed in contact with each other. He got a job as a athletic director for the Atlanta Hawks basketball team. He said, "Hey man, you need to come do something different." I said, "Okay." Pack up all my stuff, another geographical, but I take myself with me. My first job is at the King Center, working for Coretta Scott King, one of her personal assistants. And I thought, oh man, I got a shot here, I'm part of history. And I thought that was a good time to celebrate by smoking crack and drinking again. So now I'm at the King Center, in my office, my window and behind me, when I look out of it, is Dr. King's Eternal Flame. The shame, the guilt, the embarrassment. I'm a full-blown addict working for Mrs. King, and she finds out. And she doesn't really know how to deal with, drug addicts. She sends me to a 2-week outpatient. Come on, I go during the day and then I go home and do whatever. Knowing that I was eventually going to get fired, I said, I'm moving back to California. So I moved back to California. Right? So now I'm in San Francisco, in the Tenderloin District, in 1995. And I just quickly spiraled out of control.
Easy to do there.
Yeah, I was already out of control. And so now I'm homeless, and I've probably lived and been in just about every building in the Tenderloin District. I mean, racketeering, extortion, robbery, drug dealing, you name it. My last arrest, I think I broke it into one of the department stores or something overnight, and the police are chasing me all through the Tenderloin. There were several places that I used to fence stolen goods. One of them was a guy who owned a Domino's pizza, and I knew I had eluded police several times. I'd run in there, go to the bathroom, lock the bathroom door, and go out the window, which allowed me to escape somewhere else. This last time, he had put bars on the window. And that was it. They knocked on the door, roughed me up, and handcuffed me. When they turned me over, the arresting police officer was my college football coach, turned police officer. Guilt, embarrassment, shame. And he said, look, man, you're gonna wind up in prison for your life, or you're gonna wind up dead if you continue this. And he told me about Delancey Street. In jail, facing new charges, I wrote a letter to Delancey Street. They came and interviewed me and accepted me. And when I arrived at Delancey Street on the Embarcadero in San Francisco, I knew this place was different because I had graduated from 6 or 7 other 30, 60, 90-day programs, and at the end of it, my gut was telling me, you're gonna go out and fail. And I knew why, because I hadn't learned anything. Everything was assets that were given to me. Food, clothing, money, housing vouchers. The thing that was never addressed was my behavior. Wow. Until I arrived at Delancey Street. And when I first got there, I saw 2 guys that I used to run the streets with, do drugs, alcohol, and crime with. They just got there before I did. They had been there for a couple of years. They were now leaders and mentors in Delancey Street. In fact, they used to rob me. And so I looked at these guys and saw what they were doing. I was like, if they could do it, I could do it. And that's when I understood the power of lived experience. Before, I had folks in a white coat, well, not really a white coat, but so to speak, sitting across from me saying how they're gonna fix me. I could never, ever relate to that because all I was doing was telling them lies. They weren't BS detectors. And so Delancey Street, it was a series of, look, man, we're gonna show you how to do this. It was, we're gonna help you with this lying, being deceitful, being shady, cheater, and we're going to take care of these things one issue at a time. The effort to make sure that we have accurate data metrics that reflect who is the drug addict, who needs help with the mental health, with our displaced veterans, and really be honest about providing that information, right? Because a lot of people think that have this different opinion of who's homeless and who needs housing. For example, use myself as an example. You hear a lot about housing first. It feels good. It feels good to talk about housing first and to come from that point of view. But what does that actually look like, right? Of course it's necessary. But I've seen so many people, including myself, get a housing voucher. Oh, all right, problem solved. Get that housing voucher. I'm going to my new SRO hotel or apartment with the housing voucher. I got crack, heroin, meth, and everything else in my pocket in my new place that the citizens of the state of Utah just sponsored. And I walk into that new place. 2 weeks later, everybody else I know is doing drugs in my place. 2 months later, I'm evicted in the back of the line for services sponsored by taxpayers. That's the model that currently exists.